If you walked into our shop and saw this, you'd be forgiven for asking, what is it? I would imagine most people haven't seen one before. In over 20 years of dealing in campaign on travel furniture, this is the first one that we've ever had. We've seen illustrations of them before, but we've never actually physically seen one until we were lucky enough to buy this. So we can see it's some form of hanging rack. We have got 13 pegs sticking out from the top section. They're about 5 inches in length. They're quite nicely shaped and turned. And the bottom section is hinged to fold up just to make it a little bit smaller in size for travel, and also offer these pegs a little bit of protection during travel. Right, so I'm sure you're desperate to know what it is. Let's show you. It is a cavalry top boot rack. And you take your boots and you hang them on the rack just like that. And it would be very useful for 3 reasons. First of all, storing your boots, keeping them nice and tidy. Secondly, if you've been out in the long grass and it's wet, it helps to dry them. And thirdly, if you're in a place such as India or some other hot and sticky climate where there's all sorts of creepy crawlies, you really don't want to wake up in the morning, put your boots on and find a nice big large spider sat in there, ready to give you a bite as you give him the shock of his life putting your foot in onto his little homemade bed. So a very useful piece of kit. There is a curiosity about it though, and I shall show you as we take the boots off. Now, unless it was made for a one-legged man, there is a spare hook. So we have got 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pairs of boots that can fit on, and a single peg here. Now, your first thought at looking at it is, oh well, it's been reduced in size. A peg broke and they simply cut it down and move the hinges along. Well, that's possible, but if they did that, then these 2 hanging points would be off center one to the other. These little hard rubber stoppers at the back, just to hold it away from the wall slightly, would also be off center. And there's no evidence, crude saw marks or anything else to suggest that that has been happened. It's a bit of a curiosity. To be honest, we can't work out if anything has happened or not. The other possibility is that there was simply an extra peg just to hang, say, a bag of polishing brushes and polish, maybe. It's a theory, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We're not quite sure, but certainly it's very difficult to see if it was reduced, how it was reduced. I mean, another thing, these fittings, if it had been reduced and say it was a little bit longer, you wouldn't expect them to be so close to the middle. You'd expect them to be further out to hang. Again, also the rubber stops on the back. So why don't we see many of these around? Well, I think probably it's just an idea which didn't really take off. It was illustrated in the 1907 Army and Navy Store catalogue, but already on the market was the McDonald's patent Platts hanging shoe rack, which we discussed in a previous video, where you take your boot and you hang it by the heel like that. So a very similar idea, except for the boots come out rather than drop down. Platts had been advertising this rack since at least 1888. It was in the Army and Navy store catalogues for quite a long period, and still in the 1923 catalogue and possibly the 1937 catalogue. This one we've only seen it in the 1907 catalogue. So perhaps it was just an idea which didn't take off because the competition from Platts McDonald's patent rack was too strong. Either way, it's a very interesting piece of travel equipment, and still very practical and very usable today. So there you go. It's a mahogany cavalry top boot rack, and around about 1900 in date.